All right. Hello, everyone. So we are here again at the MacroMentors mentor series. Today we are talking to Eugene. Eugene, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah. How are you?
I'm very well. And you're coming to us from Singapore. How is it there these days?
It's sometimes wet and hot. It just alternates. So today's a very cool day, which is welcome. Usually it's pretty hot in Singapore.
Yeah. Well, all the restrictions are down now. So I guess we are going to get back to normal. There are now interesting concepts. But before we started this, I just talked with you about the Token 2049 conference that's coming up. So that's going to be definitely interesting. Singapore is starting to bloom again. Okay, Eugene, the way how we usually start this is by you are telling us a little bit like how you got started and what you do now. So that we dig in a little bit into your journey, and then maybe also, what kind of recommendations, what kind of battle stories you have along the way.
Sure. The stories are pretty long because my career has been nearly close to 30 years. So I try to summarize a little bit, and then we can dive in on certain areas. But just to give you background, I graduated in '94 from an Australian university. A bachelor's of economics. My family wanted me to be in banking, so I basically followed that route all the way to getting to a degree in economics, which halfway I felt it's not really what I wanted. So I had a communications component to it, which I really enjoy. It's got marketing and publicity, the whole works, media. I learned to shoot videos and all that, and this really helped me all the way till today. Gives me the creative training. So when I graduated, unfortunately, it was the Asian financial crisis, the first one.
Oh wow! So you are directly in the middle of the storm.
And there were no jobs at all in banking. So that's the end of my banking.
Lucky you. So it was the start of the rise of digital marketing. Because at the time, what kind of how did marketing look like compared to now? Because it must have been looking very different.
It was a tremendous transformation. In fact, it was the birth of the internet.
Right.
In school, in uni, the internet was just created, and we were starting to fool around with Netscape, and the first version of Netscape, and it's all like a green screen. There's no graphics at all, and I was just telling my schoolmate that this is going to transform the world, this technology, because we used to send mail to each other for communication, and it's so slow. Snail mail, we call them today. And with this email system, it was instantaneous, and we talked great distances. My friend was in Silicon Valley. So wow, this is going to be transformational. So I was very excited by the internet, but it wasn't part of my career. So I put it aside for a while, returned back to Singapore, where I had a job and interned at a Swiss multinational working in quality control. That's the only job that's available. So from then, I never stopped thinking about the internet. And after a year, I got bored and I quit. And started a series of startups involved with the internet business. Yeah. So I started.
What was the internet business at the time? Because when was that?
So when I quit my full-time job, it was around 97. So,
okay.
It's really the start of the internet. It was the .com boom, actually. So I was influenced by it. I started a few companies and .com companies. The first wave of .com companies. And that's where I cut my teeth in raising capital, running a team without any experience whatsoever in an industry that has just been started. So it's really like Wild West, kind of atmosphere. And I'm sure the today's crypto, as well as the Web2 kind of people, they probably experience that over and over again. It's going to keep happening like that for for as long as there's innovation. So,
what was the first company or the first companies about?
The first company was the precursor of Foodpanda and Deliveroo. The kind of delivery, but it was too early. It was way too early, and raised $2.5 million US. From someone who has no experience at all in raising capital. I think that was a tremendous effort. But it was hard sailing to try to get it to work, because there wasn't any market, there wasn't any like riders. Today we have smartphones. We didn't have all the infrastructure, or everything was very old-fashioned. There wasn't an economy to back it up. So
right.
We had,
and that was in Singapore, right? There was like
in
just
Singapore, Hong Kong.
Right.
I opened operation in Hong Kong, in Indonesia, in Japan. So we were this startup that I invested and helped run it. Was the Deliveroo of that time. It was
wow.
successful to a certain extent, and we had PepsiCo, Pizza Hut, and on board as well. So on the backs of their orders. So we did.
But how did this work? How did this work? Like, was this like, so I ordered from the internet, pretty much from a browser?
Yes,
I put in
no
my
mobile
address.
phones or anything. Oh yeah, you order from your desk phone. It will be transmitted to the call center. The call center will dispatch through local networking to an agent who will dispatch it down to the delivery riders. Yeah, by phone,
Mm-hmm.
by pagers or mobile phone. Really, really old-fashioned way, but it got the job done. And very soon, from zero, I had like few thousand orders.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but if you compare to today's kind of volumes, that's like nothing. Like it's probably 2,000 orders every hour. Like there's $2,000, 2,000 orders in like a month. Like 200 a day. But that was the start.
Why do you think it did not work? Was it because people were just like calling the restaurants and then picking it up, or like
it was easy to just divert? So if you don't have the right economy, like thousands of riders, to independent operators from the restaurants. You don't have smartphones where it's so easy to just click and just schedule a delivery. What I learned from that is if you're too early in the game, there's a high chance of it not working out. So even if you have a great idea, you should delay it for a while and make sure that the infrastructure is there before you deploy your idea. So if that was deployed maybe around 2010, like maybe 10 years later, with that kind of money, it could have been like a Deliveroo size kind of business.
So the big,
So many things must happen to be very lucky. You meet the right VCs, right managers. Tons of stuff need to work out, but it will be a better shot 10 years later. That's for sure.
So out from this experience, and like because of it, obviously that's a major takeaway. That's timeless, right? So like it's today maybe the same with Web3 and certain other applications and so on and so forth. Like, how did you apply these learnings over the rest of your career?
Of course, I'm more careful about timing. For example, if I have a good idea for Web3, I might want to delay it a bit longer to make sure that the ecosystem is up. That's what I learned from the previous experience before raising money and going all out with it. So the timing has to be right. And then another thing is the people as well. There were people who were suitable for the startup business, and there were some that weren't. And when I hired those that weren't and who had old economy kind of mindset, they did contribute. They were very sarcastic, very critical. They were like create a lot of friction in the business. They were not open-minded. So if you're not right for the business, you shouldn't join the startup. So this is the second learning. You're going to do Web3. You better know your MetaMask, your cryptos from your non-cryptos. There's no point trying to bring an old economy person who doesn't believe in Web3, for example. Yeah. So the right people is very important. It can really pull you down and slow you down in your expansion.
And from this first kind of idea of business to there was Deliveroo like, how did you go on from there? What was then the what were the next steps up to today, pretty much?
Yeah, I would give a very good big leaps in my career milestones, but after we exited from that startup, I went on to start several other companies, but this time more old economy like, because I wanted to have a pause from the high-paced growth business. I was in e-learning. I had to run an e-learning company. I had to run marketing outsourcing company like BPO. So quite traditional businesses. And then we moved on to digital marketing because the economy was ripe for that. So for digital marketing, the smartphone started to penetrate the consumer market. So we started to work on digital marketing on mobile as well as on web. And mostly just servicing multinational clients who wanted new campaigns for the product to try out new digital marketing techniques.
When was that? Like when did digital marketing really take off, especially in Singapore or SEA in general?
Yeah, Singapore as well as worldwide. It actually follows the infrastructure. See, when smartphones took hold of consumers around 2007, 2008,
right?
That's where digital marketing started to rise up. There's a lot of very interactive web applications, advertising. You see more fancy applications, 3D, virtual worlds, Second Life, for example, as the forerunner of today's metaverse.
Right.
Started to appear, so you can advertise in it. But then there was no currency in it. So that's where Bitcoin started, and I was there at the Bitcoin creation. And I downloaded one of the first copies of Bitcoin in 2009.
Oh, wow.
It didn't work out. The first few versions didn't work. It wasn't, I thought this is a terrible application. No, it's got a good idea, but a bad application. So I put it aside. Yeah, that's a big boo-boo.
Well,
I should have just left it mining or something like that. I just deleted it. Like, this is a bad. I think it's a bad execution of a good idea. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
When did you enter? It was like 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, one of the first revisions, 2009. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's like, but Bitcoin didn't take off until for quite a long time. So I just left it. And I had enough of the startup life. So already like 10 plus years have passed. I decided I want to work in a corporate. I wanted to be a suit. The reason for saying that is because a lot of my customers and partners said, you've been working on the supply side, like the vendor side, but not on the big company side. So you need to get some experience. You don't understand certain parts of the procurement exercise or why strategy is formulated. So it happened that Marina Bay Sands was open in Singapore, so I applied to join it, and I joined the digital marketing team. So I spent about close to 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I spent most of the start of Marina Bay Sands, and I was part of the team that saw the great success from a launch brand into one of the biggest hotel brands hospitality brands on the digital marketing landscape today. Yeah, it's like one of the most Instagrammed pictures of hotels in the world today. Yeah, we started off with just like a few thousand followers and views, and now it's like huge. It's like, I'm not sure of the amounts, but it's mind-boggling. 100 million.
Oh wow!
When I left, 100 million visitors. Yeah, it's a tremendous amount. Yeah, and we had to increase our server capacity a lot to cope with the demand. Yeah.
So you were quite successful during these 7 years then.
Yeah. As a corporate suit, I couldn't apply much of the startup kind of mentality because in a corporate environment, it's a pretty rigid framework. It's a very different way of conducting yourself professionally. Yeah.
But what do you think it was beneficial for you? Like looking back at it, like it probably shaped you as well. It was obviously very successful.
It is. Yeah, it definitely shaped me. It fulfilled what my partners and customers said before I joined the multinational company. Is I didn't understand how corporates buy and procure, how they work. Big companies. If you want to be a startup to a big company, you got to know that. So had to go and work inside one of these organizations to learn it. So that's what I did for 7 years. So after I reached my 7th year, I realized that I have learned enough. Although it's just hospitality business and online travel, I think I've learned enough for me to take away to other industries. So
Yeah.
that was very close to the pandemic. So after I left, I wanted to go back into the startup investment business. And I looked at the crypto business and I saw, oh, Bitcoin is doing well now. That was a program that I just junked, 7, 8 years ago. Yeah, now it's, I missed the opportunity. So there was a challenger called Ethereum.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, I heard about it and said, this is a great iteration of the Bitcoin idea. So I would like to invest in it for $1.
Oh, wow.
So these prices are $3,000, right? Yeah, I actually exited a long time ago, but I made a huge ROI gain during that period of time. I was very early. I didn't want to make the same mistake as I did in the past with Bitcoin. I said, this one's going to be a winner. What can I lose?
Right.
Putting a few $1,000s in this thing here. Who knows? It could be $1,000 a piece one day. I don't know. They say Bitcoin could be like 80,000 or that.
The range is massive. What people think.
Hey, and that the point of time when I invested in Ethereum, Bitcoin was like $10,000 US, and it started off with like 50 cents or some ridiculous amount. Yeah, so it's like, okay, maybe this can work, and it did, and I actually exited much earlier than this current price, but from there I rolled on to further crypto investments. But I exited everything out before the pandemic because there was a second crash at the point of time, so I wanted to leave. Yeah,
right.
So I wanted to leave get a return on investment. So that's what happened during the pandemic. And then I moved on to the healthcare business because the pandemic was spurring a lot of healthcare investments. So this is an area that I've been working on mostly up to today.
Right.
So I've been working on online healthcare distributions, some kind of telemedicine kind of a business for the last couple of years.
That seems to be such a no-brainer because, that we don't have telemedicine available, just like for everyone, seems to be quite obviously, not everything should be just a video, but they don't have access on demand very quickly to a healthcare professional. It seems to be very odd that this is still the case.
It's very odd. It's a very slowly innovating kind of business, but the pandemic helped to give a huge punch to the innovation muscles of everybody here. And telemedicine is part of everyday life. If I need to see a doctor, I'm mostly on a telemedicine application today. Before the pandemic, it was like go to the doctor.
How's the adaptation, by the way, in Singapore, and must probably much higher than in the Western world in terms of everything telemedicine? I assume it's high, right?
It's quite high, yeah. It's really worthwhile because cost of transport that can be quite expensive, especially if you're sick. You don't want to be on public transport. A cab ride, for example, could be like just down the road could be like $15 US, $10, $15 depends if it's raining, and it adds up to the cost and all that. So when you do telemedicine, right, not that the consulting costs lower, the medications get shipped to you. You can rest in your bed, and you can take away the transport costs. So it's not just cost savings, but comfort. You since you're sick, and convenience. So I think it's done very well for busy Singaporeans. For me personally, yes.
I mean, it's quite interesting, right? You moved pretty much into the startup sphere. So you always followed the trends, were very early, got burned, then went on into the corporate world, made a lot of learnings. Now you're back in startup land and in investor land. If you think about it, because, a lot of people seem to be in university, I guess there's always these kind of, three major kind of angles that people like to pursue, which is one is, everything kind of finance related. The other thing is about management consulting. And then there's a lot of people want to become founders, right? So would you recommend everything that you just pretty much told me that it might be very beneficial to start in a corporate before you actually like go on your founder journey? Because, most of them want to now kind of drop out with, 18 years old and want to start another $1 billion company. I think that's a little bit the narrative. Do you think it makes sense to or was it beneficial for you to have all of this experience and to go through different iterations probably of your career and yourself?
It's a good question. It really depends on the situation. If you stumble across the next Bitcoin, like you're really convinced and it really is a good idea, I think you shouldn't look for a corporate job. You might even consider like postponing your education for it. But if it's just a mediocre idea, like maybe if you speak to many people and they say, I think this won't work, or like maybe so lukewarm, you're not convinced enough. I think it's better for you to work in the company first and get some of your business basics built up before you try startups. Startups are very suitable for someone in the who's young because you do not have liabilities and all that. You can take tremendous risk. Even if you fail, it's okay. There is some takebacks from failures. If it's not too serious, I think there are some takebacks from failures. Try to avoid like serious failures because it will set you back.
What's a serious failure?
For example, if you end up like in a bankruptcy situation, you could set you back. Like you can't borrow money to fund the next venture, for example. Something very simple that your life is just put on pause. Maybe if you failed and lost maybe $10,000 US, you can pick up and still get back on your feet. Right. Try to avoid serious failure. That's my advice. Have like good legal advice in whatever you're doing. Not make some big mistake. A smaller mistake is okay. You'll bounce back. I bounce back, and I'll keep bouncing back as long as you're careful. So if you're young, you should go and try something. But if the idea is a lukewarm idea, I think you should not.
So the idea is now, or let's say someone listens to this and they ask themselves, well, I have an idea. How can I know that it's a good idea? What do you recommend? Like how to test it? Like from your journey, from all of your frameworks that you learned, is there anything in particular?
Yes, there's a framework that I developed from that to prevent, being exuberant about ideas. I have quite a lot of ideas sometimes on my own, and I'm not going to try to fund every one of them because there are probably bad ideas inside that list. So one thing you need to do is a market test. We in one of the companies that I own, we do like extreme market testing, like over 100 people, 1,000 companies, that kind of thing, and try your idea. If nobody buys your product, like maybe if less than like 20% buy your product or say it's a good idea, then it's a bad idea. Because you know why? The market is telling you that. So no matter how well you think of idea, what think of this idea, the market is saying it's not good. So I think you should go back to the drawing board. You should also check with like investors, who have got good experience in this area here. Maybe someone has tried it before, or there's someone really big in the game, and you'll just be crushed by them. Trying to launch internet. A browser today will probably be crushed, or online advertising, because Google's got 99% of it. Forget those ideas. Forget it right away. Go for something that has got some blue ocean to it. Blue ocean as in there's no competitors. People are afraid. Like the Web3 era there. For the Web3 era, there's probably some good ideas lurking there, but you're not sure which one will work because it's still not clear yet. So that's a good area to think about.
What's if you think about this in more detail, like how to do a market test? Like, do you run ads? What do you do exactly? Or how does it work? Obviously, I'm not so familiar with it. So,
we craft the idea based on the business profile. Is it B2C or B2B? We prefer B2B due to the range of expertise that we have. But B2C is fine as well. We look at the product. There will be some fundamentals of the product that's not worth scaling. Like it's a bad idea. We can't assist a bad idea as well. Especially if we've experienced it before. We look at the product as well and do some initial testing. If it's good, then ramp up the scale of testing. So in general, in a marketing research kind of environment, about 125 samples of people, companies are needed to validate the product. You need to validate at least 125. And if this is successful, then you can start to invest a lot in all the marketing techniques you mentioned, online advertising, offline, even like telemarketing or having events and mail outs. You can have the whole works once you validate that. Yeah.
Is that the reason why companies, most of the money that they are now raising is actually spent just on marketing related purposes? Is that the reason?
Spending on marketing is a crucial component of it. You can't avoid that. But the things that they plunge into it without thinking very clearly in how they spend it. They may be spending a lot to advertise a product that nobody wants. For example, there's 100% wastage in marketing. That's why the service I provided helped to scale a healthcare brand by testing and refining the product first before we go all out marketing. Yeah. So I think startups are missing this service provider or missing this step, and they're just going out and spending the money, like growth at all costs, that kind of thing. Like later on, when you want to go back to profitability, you can't, because you've sold it at, I don't know, $1 or free for 6 months, free trial for 6 months, and then everybody turns off the subscription after the 6th month. That wasn't a good idea, I don't know, because there wasn't any value in it. If the value was very strong, they would continue.
What do you think about the bootstrap model? Like that, not to take, funding straight from the beginning, but at first when you then know a little bit more how to spend the money wisely.
I'm a big fan of bootstrap model. A lot of my companies that I've invested in at the pre-seed level are basically bootstraps. Bootstrap either by funds or with somebody else. If the idea works and there's revenue, then you take it to the next level, like seed or pre-Series A investors to raise larger sums of money. I think it's a very good idea. But there's some ideas that are quite attractive, and if they are a good idea and it's convincing, you can go straight to Series A investors, like they put in like $1 or $2 million right away. Yeah.
Right. Especially in the B2C space, right?
Or even the B2B space as well. There are some investors chasing particular deals like this, and they'll tell you, don't waste time on bootstrapping. I'll give you the money, just go straight into it. I'll write you the check right away. Okay. So for good ideas, but these investors have a particular product they're looking for. So if you're lucky enough to be in that space and have a product that matches the ideal, you get the money straight away. If there are no investors out there who are chasing after your idea, then you have to bootstrap it to prove it. A lot of extra work.
Yeah. I mean, like the way how I think about it, it's also like how to become a little bit resourceful, right? Because if you get like let's say $1 million straight from the beginning, you will likely spend it, be it on like expensive developers, expensive marketing campaigns, and these kind of things. If you are more bootstrapped, it seems that like for the long term, it might be wiser. Or maybe like from the beginning might be wiser strategy, because a little bit like how to operate without a lot of resources. Kind of seems to make everything along the way a little bit more efficient, no?
Both approaches are correct. Let's take the Web3 or kind of like an unknown space, blue ocean. One knows where is it going, what works, what doesn't. Those are ideal for raising as much capital and spending. So I would recommend that. There's no point bootstrapping in that kind of area. That's a winner takes all kind of business.
Right.
You become the number one currency in this virtual world, or the number one shop there. You challenge and you beat Nike at it, and Nike buys you out. So that's an idea I think that's worth funding right away, and then you spend very aggressively. If it's an idea where the exit isn't very clear, but it's a more mature business, it's better to bootstrap it, to test it out. Like maybe telemedicine is more mature right now. Maybe you want to have a drone telemedicine service, not just courier, but drone,
Right.
So you can bootstrap that with a few drones and try out to see if it works. Maybe it crashes or doesn't arrive on time or stolen. They say, oh, this is a bad idea. So bootstrap, you lost maybe a couple of $1,000.
All right.
So bootstrap is ideal for those kind of approaches. But for blue ocean strategy, you have to go all out and find a backer.
And what do you think, like, talking now a little bit more about like how you spend your time, right now, what are you looking at? Like what kind of trends you are seeing? I guess like what are the blue oceans out there? If someone is interested, in riding a wave, what waves are out there that you are particularly interested in?
Well, because of some of it of my crypto investments in the past, I'm very slanted towards a Web3 or anything that can be proven to be a big thing in Web3 kind of business. I've been dabbling a little bit of NFTs, but not the traditional NFTs, like thinking about what could be the second generation NFTs that will work out. Not the first generation. In fact, the boom is over. The first generation NFTs have sold and left. So what's the second generation NFT? Where's it going? Yeah. So I'm looking at those areas.
Where's it going?
Yeah, where's it going? Yeah, like the early NFTs are like great art that you buy for $5 million or $2 million for some doodle. I think those exuberance are over already. The price actually has come down. The next generation NFTs could be, something that connects to the real world. For example, I'm not sure which will work out. This is a good chance to bootstrap and maybe for great ideas again, put a lot of money behind it with a serious backer. So I'm mainly in those areas here, but I'm also looking at some other businesses in healthcare as well as one or two other industries. Yep.
Is there anything in like any name in particular, or any kind of like business model that you think is like particular or idea that's particularly attractive?
Right now, I'm actually at a stage where I have not found one that I particularly like. I'm quite choosy. I'm quite choosy at this current stage. What I'm doing now is looking at what other pre-seed investors are doing, especially Y Combinator, looking at the latest releases to see what ventures they are being backed and what isn't. I see some of the ideas, for example, like fintech or that, but these are very old ideas. I don't think they are very, very strong. I'm looking for something that's really like blue ocean type, where there's a very big return of ROI, especially if you're putting a smaller sum of money. You want to have a higher ROI for the risk. It's also high risk as well at that stage. So right now, I'm not settled on any ideas here. Just only Web3 is the only one that interests me. Anything Web3 and NFTs.
What's it about Web3 that you think will, how do you think it will play out? Because, there was so much talk. Like, I remember this like beginning of the year about metaverse. Everyone is kind of looking at this play to earn, looking at games like Star Atlas and these kind of things, and we are becoming like all soon like participants in these kind of virtual economies. But how do you see it play out? What's kind of the next really step?
I think this like gaming and some form of e-commerce, customized e-commerce will take off. It's still very early stage because I've participated in some of these metaverse environments and there's very little turnout. There's very few people in it. It's not mainstream yet. And remember the early part of this conversation, if it's not mainstream, there's no infrastructure, it's probably you're going to waste your money promoting it. So I think it's like a year or two out if you're talking about that area here. But what's taking hold recently is personalized digital assets. I think Nike has done very well. They bought a Web3 firm and now they are integrating their brand on the metaverse, allowing people to customize like the Nike attires digitally. I think that idea worked. People are paying quite a lot. So instead of selling a $20, $30, $100 sneaker, people are paying like $1,000 for a digital sneaker. I think that works. So if you translate that idea to maybe a bootstrap idea, maybe you can attempt to attack Nike and compete with them in the metaverse.
How is this personalized? Is it like the name on my sneaker, on the virtual sneaker, or how's this work?
I can't remember the studio's name. It's just like 5 letters, but you can personalize like clothing, your look,
Okay.
like a digital avatar. You can put it on Instagram and put it onto all the Web3 platforms if they have it. And people can hey, I want the outfit. It's quite nice. Can I buy it over from you and turn it into reality, or purchase a digital asset version of it, variation of it, and then you get paid, Nike get paid, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it's spawning some kind of economy that is starting to take shape. That's an area that's worth investing in, and maybe if you were to challenge Nike successfully, if any startup out there would achieve doing that, you'll get bought up from Nike, and that will be a good price. Or you can go IPO or some traditional route, because you've done well. So I think that's worth looking at. Yeah.
So what do you think will bring this mass adoption? Because obviously that more people are doing personalized, digital sneakers. I probably need somehow to suck people into the trends. Do you think it's gaming? Because I thought when I saw the play to earn thing that, okay, that's gonna, pretty much be a game changer, because it's kind of, like a side gig that you are having, especially I think in emerging markets. And it might that was a very practical reason for kind of, to suck people into Web3 and play to earn and so on and so forth. Now this is a little bit quieter. I guess also because you need the other side that's putting in the money in from, the more advanced markets. So I guess that is a little bit like a balancing act. But do you have any kind of educated guess or anything? What's the next really kind of, the step towards mass adoption, or how do you see it?
It could come from anywhere. I mean, looking at the birth of the internet, and then Web 2, and then now we have what we call Web 3. It could come from anywhere. If suddenly big fashion houses like Louis Vuitton were to invest heavily for some reason whatsoever, and then fashion designers start to put a lot of time into it to create a lot of stuff, and then as a result, the people are upgrading their computers and their smartphones to be able to manipulate these kind of environments, then that will take off. So it can come from a different angle. Gaming is definitely a good angle. There are always better MMORPG kind of games out there. So these next generation games will suck in these digital assets, where it's part of the gameplay and you get money out of it. And money is a very important part of the process. If the prices keep rising for these assets, but crazily high, it will take off. More and more people will come in, converts will come in. Yeah. So it can come from all angles. So my advice to startups who want to enter this kind of space, just this space alone, is to spread their seeds in different areas, focus areas, but consider all angles that it could potentially take hold. Yeah. Not just do just one area alone.
So what are people coming to you right now? Because you're doing a lot of pre-seed, you're, talking to people, you're advising people, they're coming to you with ideas. What are the ideas these days? That are trying to kind of capture certain of these waves.
A lot of queries I get tend to come in through LinkedIn, strangely.
All right.
They try to reach out because they see that you are doing pre-seed. Maybe you can fund some ideas. But I don't have any idea that has captured my interest, because a lot of them are what I call so lukewarm ideas. Yeah. So
how does the process work when you look at an idea? How do you approach it? Is there any kind of a checklist that you have? Okay, that's good, that's not good, or?
Yeah. Before I even consider doing a very basic market testing, only if I get to the kind of interest level, I would do some primary research, check with people in the industry, try it out for myself, look at the competitive landscape. Some ideas are I'm going to be in DeFi, I will start my next blockchain. Those ideas are going to be very hard to take off because the competition is huge. They've been there for a long time. Yeah. So those ideas I immediately struck off. Ideas that have a good logic for the Web3 industry, for example, which I'm interested in, then look closely and do some market testing, especially with crypto enthusiasts, to test them out and say, like, would you spend this kind of money on this kind of assets or this kind of company, this kind of product? And if it's good, then we'll do market testing. If it's great, then I think it's worthy of an investment.
And do you look only at the idea, or like do you look at like how do you assess a person, like a founder or founder team for that matter?
Yeah, great question. They need to be passionate about the thing, and they need to like have spent some time having skin in the game, living the dream, and living for their dream. Yeah, putting some money, maybe saved, I don't know, $5,000. They're just a student, and they have a team under them, because solo founders always have a high chance of failure. I want to rule out solo founders. There's only one or two guys who succeeded, but if they don't have a team willing to stick it out through the hard times, that's not going to work out as well. So these are some of the very basic checklists. You look at the personality, whether you can get along with the person, and if the person is located within that geography and all the founders are there. There's extensive checklists. Some of these are very basic checklists, but if the founders don't have those, it's likely to break apart.
And I think like Y Combinator has this as well, that like they reject solo founders. What's the reasoning behind it? Obviously, I can imagine like the obvious is that okay, you are alone in the hard times. Mentally, it's a challenging game. But is there any other reason that you see?
My experience, I know YC has got their own experience in this area, but from my experience, I think solo founders may end up quitting because of the mental pressures. If no one to like turn to talk things out, they may have a single focus mindset. Like it's not as flexible as with having to bounce off with a co-founder, for example.
Right.
And then there are many times where maybe you need to attend to family matters, that kind of thing. There's no partner to look after the business. So solo founders, I think because of that, have a very high rate of failures. With at least two, the chance of the business surviving is better.
And if someone comes to you and they're a solo founder, I guess they have an idea. Like, how do you kind of guide them? Because obviously, let's say, they might be not technical. They look for a co-founder. They just don't have maybe the right team in place. Like, is there kind of like something that they can do about it?
Yeah, you got to go and find one. Yeah, a lot of them actually they met in school or at work, but there are some good events or matching services. I think they're complementary. Like startups who succeeded helping future startups, where you can meet another co-founder, like a total stranger that believes in the idea. When you have at least two and more, then you can start talking to pre-seed investors, any pre-seed investor. Yeah, you have to be turned away as a solo investor. YC would do that. Most people would.
Interesting. Like what do you think is actually what's the biggest difference that you see it between like pre-seed, angel? Is there any kind of, anything that like, you would say it's kind of like different or stands out?
Yeah. Angel investors, true angel investors could be just an individual who is either high net worth or has made money from previous investments. Could be a side hustle, could be full-time. Such a person could make a decision without any framework, so it'd be quite easy. Like what we call napkin checks. You mean at a cafe? Okay, here's 20,000. Possible, yeah. It's possible, yeah. For pre-seed investors who have like a basic corporate framework, it's more thorough. It doesn't move as fast, even though it's a smaller setup than a big VC. Even for a modest track, it will go through a more serious review of the idea and the team.
One thing that I came across recently, there seem to be more and more services and accelerators that are popping up now for, I guess for companies really or for founders in the pre-seed stage that are offering services to them, right? So you would, for example, outsource certain parts of the business that you as a founder can maybe more focus on some other parts or the core parts of the business. Are you critical of this kind of thing, like, especially early, or do you see it like, well, you have to build everything if you start a company, so why not outsourcing certain parts of it straight from the beginning?
Yeah, I'll be very careful about that. There are some group service providers. I've encountered one startup which I invested in that outsourced to a provider in a Southeast Asian country. We don't mention it, but they did nothing and they took the check and just did nothing at all. Yeah, they were supposed to do the development outsourcing. So there are some group companies out there to be careful of. And if you're not careful as well on the IP and outsourcing your core competency, you actually may turn away future investors that they see that you've actually outsourced your core. So you make sure that your core is with you, your core development, core IPs still in your control. Where these providers hope your value is scaling up, means you've got a successful expansion and you want to expand it in 20 other countries, the same model, same formula. These vendors are very helpful because you don't want to learn about the Vietnamese market, from scratch. There are a lot of pitfalls. Right. So you say, okay, my product has done well in Southeast Asia. I'm going to go to Vietnam, for example, scale up from 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers. I think companies who are not rogue, who are professional, who can execute this are very valuable for startup.
Right. Very interesting. And Eugene, obviously, you have such a wide span of a career, started so many. How many companies did you start, by the way, by now?
Yeah, probably a dozen, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in many areas, yeah. Many of them have exited, some didn't work out. So that you have to accept a failure rate of double-digit failure rate. Because you're betting on ideas. So a dozen, and only one or two are stars. And it's very typical in the venture business. 25% fail, 60% more are just zombies that you make back close to the dollar for dollar. And then there's a star, Ethereum was a star, 1,000%. So if you get more stars, that'd be great. If you can get in early on these kind of companies.
If you talk about failures, from failures turn into learnings, then, is there any in particular learning that, from your kind of 30 years of experience, would you give your younger self, let's say, give the 20-year-old Eugene, which obviously the 20-year-old Eugene couldn't know at all because, it needs a lot of experience. Is there any kind of, piece of wisdom nugget that you could share where you think, wow, yeah, this is something I should have known better? And it would have been great.
Yeah, I think there's lots of heaps of things I would have told my younger self. But just to reiterate my point, I said earlier, it will be not to rush into a market that's not ready to set a product,
right.
And to test and research products before you turn it into invest more time into it. Because if you do that and it doesn't work out, you also pull down people as well as capital, and you're also wasting your time as well. So yeah, slow down and choose your timing and people correctly, and get some corporate experience, because I didn't have sufficient corporate experience straight out of school, and I have to learn everything from scratch. So maybe get some corporate experience if you don't have a great idea yet, and then that will help you a lot when you are managing your company. Yeah,
so do you have a The other thing is then possibly as well, patience. Be a little bit more patient. You don't have to be rush into the next idea straight away. You can also give yourself a little bit time and experience to, go into a corporate and learn how a company works.
Because if you're talking about very young startup founders, they'll be very impatient about getting an idea up to speed.
Right.
But there's some founders who are in the 30s and 40s. Those are more careful. They may have gone through one failure before. Those are will get this advice or embrace this advice more readily. But for the younger ones, slow down. And if the timing is not right, it's very painful. But you may have to drop the idea or put it aside.
Sure.
If you really want to do a venture right away, look for something that is able to take hold of the current environment. You have to pivot.
Eugene, from the pre-version of Deliveroo to now, very much preceding founders, supporting them, mentoring them, kind of brings us a little bit to MacroMentors and why you are here. And so why don't you talk a little bit about what people can expect from you, when they approach you, and what you enjoy teaching, and what kind of lessons what they can expect to learn from you.
Sure, yeah. So actually, on MacroMedia, I have two different service provisions. One is like an hour call, just to understand your objectives of any startup or even a medium-sized business. In some rare occasions, I have large multinationals that approach me for specific goals. But primarily, I think startups need this the most. To understand the business and how viable. But at the end of the call, I may say, I don't think you should waste resources to scale up. It's just has a high chance of failure. But if we're convinced that it's going to have a good chance of success, then we can take up our second package, which is to scale your business to the next level, expand it rapidly. We'll do some testing, and then if it's good, we'll do mass approach. With our own databases that we collect from different industries, and we can collect new databases for a specific industry. So if you're in healthcare, we have those databases for certain markets. So we can easily test out those ideas. But if it's a brand new space that we've not done before, we'll collect those databases over 2 or 3 months. We'll market test it. If it's good, the response is great for your product, then go all out. You can get thousands of customers potentially if done correctly. So that's the second provision. We offer that if it works out in the initial understanding of your business.
Awesome. So lessons and hands-on experience. That's fantastic. That's really useful. We hopefully can have the second session together soon when we scale up MacroMentors.
Absolutely, I'm happy to do some testing of ideas. Initially, my profile or any of the other mentors, if they're willing to give their profile some visibility checks, we can do some tests. And just from the marketing test alone, we can see how viable is the offering. The offering is not so great, doesn't have any traction. Just change it. It's not about yourself, and everyone has got something good to deliver. But maybe it's how it's positioned. Maybe it's too deep, like derivatives. Maybe people want just simple financial advice. You may get 500 customers for that.
Right.
They don't want your derivative knowledge. They just want investment advice from someone who's at that level in their professional career. So
people who have already done it, yeah.
Yeah, you might have flip the idea I would like to sell derivatives, but how many people want that? How many? 1, 2? But there are 500 people who want simpler ideas and are willing to pay $100 for it. What's that? That's 50,000. Yeah. So it's you tune yourself to what's the demand.
Eugene, is there any other kind of resource that you would recommend, or is there any other way people can follow your work or yourself?
I think the best approach would be to reach out to me. I do not publicize my work a lot on my websites. Yeah, my websites are a company that they run actually do not have any information about my background or that. They just talk about the product itself. Most of them are very product sales driven. on my primary website where I attract potential investees or investors to co-invest. It just has the list of all strategic partnerships and investments and exits. That's it. Just like a record. So the best
track record.
It's track record. Yeah. So the approach is just to contact me through Mentor Media or reach out to me through other means. Have a discussion, and then we will move to I would strongly recommend to move to the initial call. That's the product on Mentor Media.
MacroMentors.
MacroMentors, sorry, yeah. MacroMentors, yeah. And purchase that product, and we'll take it from there. All
right. That sounds interesting. So, Eugene, absolute pleasure talking to you. I think there was quite, quite a journey, and there was quite a lot of insights. I think we're going to find a lot of nuggets in this discussion. I think if there's nothing else from your side, I think we end it here. And, any parting words, anything else from your side, Eugene?
Well, I encourage all viewers of this podcast to sign up for this service, and for encourage more mentors to share their journeys through this platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eugene.
Thank you, Amin.
All right.